Please welcome Deborah Rofi.
Ladies and gentlemen, we all come to Toastmasters for a purpose. Whatever that purpose is, it's all personal purpose. We all have different roles to play, different goals that we're striving for, but we're all basically here for the same thing, to have a successful meeting. Now, a successful meeting consists of being a team. What makes an effective meeting? Take this car, for instance. Quite cute, I thought, so I thought I'd bring him on. To create a car, you need to have the body of the car. You need to have wheels, an engine, and a driver. Without one of those elements, the car is really useless, because you can't drive it without a driver. Without the wheels, it's not going to go very far at all. Without the body, you're going to get wet or hurt. And without the engine, you're pretty much stationary in a cardboard box. So the same sort of principle applies for our meeting. Each one of our meetings consists of various roles and responsibilities that we need to take on board. First of all, there is the Toastmaster. Now, the Toastmaster is a very important role. Would you agree?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. What about the Topics Master? Do you consider the Topics Master an important role? Speakers? General Evaluator?
Not so much.
Not so much? Speech evaluators, timers, grammarian, and of course the R counter. So they are the general roles that we have. Now, which one of those roles would you consider to be the most important? Hands up who thinks that Toastmaster has the most important role. Hands up who thinks that the Topics Master has the most important role. What about the timer? The grammarian? Your hand's going up for everyone. Why would that be?
Because they're all important.
They are all equally as important as each other. That's exactly right. Every single role that you perform in the meeting, or that somebody performs in a meeting, is as equally important as the other. Without one of them, we're not going to run successfully or like clockwork the way that we do. Some other minor roles that they consider to be minor roles is the Round Robin Master. Again, that's also a very important role. The Harp Master plays another important role. The Word Master, and in our club here we have an interlude. Some clubs don't have the interlude, they might have something else, but we have an interlude here. The Toastmaster's job is to review the agenda. It's up to the Toastmaster to have a look and make sure that all of the spots are filled and that each of the assigned roles has a certain amount of timing for that particular night. And obviously, like for instance tonight, if I was slotted into a 5 to 7 minute slot to perform a 10 to 15 minute speaking role or presentation, it's not going to work. So it's up to the Toastmaster as well as the VPE to work together to make sure that the meeting runs successfully. The Toastmaster also liaises with each of the participants as well to provide a quality introduction. One of the things that I noted tonight was that Gary came up to me in the break and asked me about being introduced and about what the title of my speech was. And that's a very important part of your role. So if ever you're a Toastmaster, don't forget that part of it as well. Now, the Topics Master. Often people try to do their topics, table topics around the theme, which is fantastic. But then they forget another vital important role of the Topics Master is to engage and to involve participants who don't have another role. So instead of calling up somebody who has a major speaking role or a major evaluation role, and there's other members of the audience this evening who don't have a specific role to play, they're the people that the Topics Master should be calling up so that everybody is equally involved in the meeting and they're fairly engaged. So keep that in mind when our next Topics Master. Another one is also to invite the guests. So before the meeting starts, find out who all the guests are and their names and go up to them. Ask them, would you be up to be involved in the table topics. If they would, please invite them up to talk, because it's a great way to get them involved, not just with the round robin. For speakers, it is extremely important that you plan the speech that you're going to make, and that you practice the speech that you're going to make. People often think, oh, I'll leave it to the last minute and they'll turn up here, and they don't give the performance that they should know that they can deliver. So always make sure that you give as much planning and practice to your speech as you can to perform to your personal best. It's not about trying to beat your fellow Toastmasters. It's not about trying to beat anybody else at all. It's all about performing at your personal best and trying to improve to your best ability. Also, as a speaker, it's up to you to liaise with your evaluator. So at the start of the evening or in the break, when you know you want to be evaluated in the next half, go up to your evaluator, give them the book, explain to them the types of things that you'd like them to look out for. You might be someone who is particularly a hand clasper or a rocker. Or like I started off and I was like this all the time. I didn't even know I was doing it. As soon as someone picked it up, I kept saying to everybody, make sure I don't do that this time. Make sure I don't do it this time. So those are the sorts of things that you can ask your evaluator to look out for. The general evaluator role is a huge role. It's not so much it's more important, but it is a very big role because you're evaluating the entire evening as well as the evaluators. Also, you offer constructive criticism and effective solutions. So it's not just about picking up the strengths and the weaknesses, it's also offering solutions to what they can do better and how they can do it better next time. Speech evaluators, pretty much the same sort of thing, but on a smaller scale. You're dealing with one-on-one. So you're giving your own personal opinion about how someone has performed, giving them their strengths, their weaknesses, offering any solutions that you think that they could use that would best enhance their speech the next time that they come up to perform. And don't forget, of course, it's not just verbal, it's also filling in their books as well for their speeches. The table topics evaluator is exactly the same, but on a very more concise level. So you can't always run to the pips doing a couple of strengths, a weakness or a point of improvement, and then another strength and summary, because you don't always have the time, but you concise or summarise that down as much as you can, but to still offer a very valuable evaluation. The timer often is a very, very understated role, and I laughed actually when Gary introduced George this evening as pretty much of a demotion, poor old George. But in actual fact, the timer is extremely important because it doesn't just keep our meetings on time, it keeps us performing at our best. Because we could come up here and we could waffle on for hours, and I know I can. Everyone's always known me that I can talk at the leg off the table. So the idea of running to time is extremely important. If you're ever invited up to speak at a wedding or at a professional engagement or something like that, it is extremely important to be speaking within your limit. Or people are going to get bored or tired or they're going to talk over you, and it just gives a bad impression on yourself rather than on the person who's actually talking over you. So it's very important that the timer keeps you on time, keeps the whole meeting on time, and works with the Toastmaster so that if the speaker who is up at the time is running over time, they liaise with the Toastmaster so that the Toastmaster can trim the rest of the meeting, and maybe where the Toastmaster might have been allocated 4 minutes later on to speak on, for instance, the stars or whatever it is for the theme for the night, they know, oh, I can't speak that long this time, I'll only speak for 2 minutes to make sure that the meeting runs on time. And I've noticed that Gary's been running to time beautifully this evening, so well done, Gary. The grammarian and R counter, once again, a very underrated role, but very important. When you get up and you want to speak in front of people, people want to listen to someone who speaks eloquently, who speaks with knowledge, and who speaks pretty much like everyone is going to understand, not like, it's really good up here and all the rest of it. So you really need to actually speak properly. use good pronunciation, good vocabulary, and speak lovely and clearly. So the grammarian has a great role in being able to not just pick up great points of prose and so forth, but also to show areas where you can improve. So keep that in mind, and the R counter is the same. Have we ever watched the news programs and seen the reporters, and then he did, and this, and you just sit there going, oh my God, go to Toastmasters. So it's very important, the R counter role as well. And I, myself, in my opinion, I believe that the R counter should talk truly. If I've said 500 hours, I want to know I've said 500 hours, not 5. Don't be lenient, be truthful, because people can only improve by knowing the truth. Now the round robin is a warm-up role. The round robin gets everybody engaged, everyone that is in here, talking immediately. So as soon as the meeting starts, everyone starts to warm up and let loose. And this is a great way of getting us all started. So the round robin role is very important. The harp master tests our listening skills. Now the harp master at the end of this evening might ask you questions and direct them at specific people, and they will test to see how much you're actually listening this evening and how much you've learned from what you've heard. So it's a very important role, because if you're not engaging the audience, they're obviously not listening, then there's a problem. The word master is a great way of seeing if you have the ability to include or incorporate something, a theme perhaps, or a word perhaps, or whatever. So if you ever go to a professional engagement or a wedding, like I was saying before, it's about getting up and impromptu speaking and incorporating that astronomical word into the storytelling that you're saying on the evening or the day. And finally, the interlude is a great way of getting something across to your audience. It might be something that you professionally like, or something that you personally like, or something, a message that you want to get across. But the idea is to engage your audience during the interlude. So if you're engaging the audience, they're not all off thinking about, oh, can't wait, in 2 minutes I've got another cup of tea coming, and all that sort of stuff. So that even the interlude is just as important to engage your audience. I won't harp on these because it was a great timing. Actually, Daniel came up today and was talking about the club officer roles, but they are all very, very important and all equally as important as each other. So if any of you are considering to take on a club officer role, please do so. You have some great helpers and great mentors throughout this club, so please consider taking on a club officer role. So, what have we learned tonight? Effort plus teamwork equals success. So for a successful club, we need to be a team and work together and volunteer for those roles. And in conclusion, Henry Ford's famous quote, coming together is the beginning. Keeping together is progress. Working together is success. Thank you.